any speech is the introduction. The introduction has three important goals: to get the audience's attention, establish listener relevance, and to state the thesis. Getting the audience's attention is important and can be done in a number of different ways. One way to get their attention is to make a startling statement which shocks them in some sort of way. Rhetorical questions can be asked as well because they help process mental answers rather than direct responses. Some people like to hear stories to start focusing in on the speech, but this isn't always the most effective way because they are often lengthy and some of the members in the audience might not relate to the topic. Yet, if you want to make the audience laugh and have a good time, the thing to do is tell a joke right away. Many speakers find it easy to recite a quote or a statistic from someone else. This shows that they have done their research and know what they are talking about. After getting the audience's attention, the next step is to establish a listener relevance link, which is a statement of how and why your speech can relate or affect the audience members. An easy way to accomplish this goal is by asking questions such as, why should my listeners care about what I'm saying, or in what ways can they benefit from listening to my speech? This is important to do because many listeners go to speeches wondering how your speech is going to affect them and what they can get out of listening to it. It's best to answer these questions right away to let them know and keep their attention. Next, you will want to state your thesis. A thesis is a statement that is only one or two sentences long, giving a preview of all the main points in your speech. This allows the speaker to make an easy transition from the introduction to the body. Audience members want to know what your speech is about, and this helps clarify and tell them exactly what you will be presenting to them. The thesis helps tell the audience what your general and specific goals are, as well as the main points of your topic. Another important thing to do at the beginning of your speech is to establish your credibility. This must be done unless someone has previously introduced you onto stage, because if your audience doesn't know who you are, what you do, or where you're from, your audience will wonder what they should be paying attention to what you're saying. As well as letting people know who you are, it's also important to create a bond of goodwill. As a speaker, you'll want to be enthusiastic, warm, and friendly, and act like you care about your audience and what you have to offer them, because this will have an impact on them and make them want to listen to you. By doing this, it makes things more comfortable for the speaker as well as their listeners. Since the introduction is the most important part of the speech by determining what kind of relationship the speaker and audience will have, it's essential to spend a great amount of time creating it. While writing your speech, you should write at least 2 or 3 different introductions and practice them out loud to see which one works best with what you're presenting, the types of listeners you will have in your audience, and which one you're most comfortable opening up with. When creating different introductions, don't use the same sentences and switch the word, or you should use the same sentences and switch the wording around a little bit. For example, first try a question. Once you're happy with the way it sounds, try another by opening up with a famous quote, and so on. Once the introduction of the speech is finished, the body comes next. Basically, the function of the body is to take what you said in the introduction and build onto it. It's important to use transitions and segues when creating it. By using these, it shows your audience you are moving on to another point or topic in your speech. Transitions can be used as another form of an attention getter. If you seem to be losing your listeners' interest during the body of your speech, transitions can help regain it. This can be done by getting your audience involved by having them turn a page in a handout, for example. Another way to do this is by using a visual aid and moving on to the next slide. As soon as you have a few transitions made, it's time to work on the main points in your speech. It might help to write them down in order from most important to least important, and then the speaker should make sure there are no more than 3 points. The order of your points should go from the most important to the least important, and then to the second most important point. While presenting your different points, it's best to give both the positive and negative side of each argument. It's easy to use yourself as an example when giving a pro or con to a certain topic, or else you could use someone else you know as an example. Visual aids may also help when trying to do so. After the body of the speech has been written, a last transition will be needed to move on to the conclusion of the speech. It's important to make sure you have talked about everything you said you would in the beginning. A possibility for moving on to the conclusion is to briefly list the main points in your body again. The conclusion is the smallest part of the speech, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be carefully planned. The two goals of the conclusion are to review main ideas of the speech to ensure that the listeners will remember what was talked about and to provide a state of closure, leaving the audience with a good impression so they take something from your speech and remember the importance of it. The point of having a summary in the conclusion is to list three main ideas presented in your speech. This helps make sure the first goal is on the conclusion is complete. A clincher, which is a 1 or 2 sentence statement in a conclusion, providing a sense of closure by driving home the importance of a speech in a memorable way. And this is used to complete the second goal. There are two different types of clinchers, vivid imagery and appealing to action. When using vivid imagery, it's important to use any of the following examples, such as a question, a startling statement, joke, action, or leaving the audience in suspense. This leaves them thinking about what you have said, and it will help maintain your audience remembrance of you. The second option, appeal to action, is a statement that describes the behavior you want your listeners to follow after they have heard your arguments. This works best after presenting a persuasive speech because it gives a sense of motivation to the audience to act a certain way. When creating the conclusion, it's best to write 2 or 3 of them like you had done for the introduction. Remember to read them out loud several times and then choose the one you feel most comfortable presenting. No matter what kind of speech you're presenting, it's important to list your sources. This helps direct listeners to the specific source of information you used in your speech and can help refer back to that information later on. There are 2 standard methods for organizing sources, alphabetically by author's last name or else by content and category, which lists authors alphabetically within each category. A good speech has an audience's attention throughout the whole thing, establishes listener relevance, and gives the thesis, as well as creating goodwill while establishing credibility. As well as doing those important things, good speeches end on leaving the audience with a vivid impression after summarizing the speech's goals and main points.